welcome to episode 6 of Keeping the Light On. I'm your host, Allie Bailey. This week we'll be speaking with our Executive Artistic Director, Gary Landis, to find out how things have changed for LASC during this pandemic. We will also be announcing our shows for next season and letting you know how you can become a subscriber. Hi, Gary. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Allie. As always, it is great to see you.
So, Gary, each day seems to be different, filled with new news, reports, suggestions, recommendations on how to proceed in the wake of COVID-19. How have things changed for LASC since we first spoke with you in March?
Well, back in March, we had just decided to cease operations and made the decision to cancel and postpone our production of Sunday in the Park with George, and then a few weeks later to cancel and postpone our production of Steel Magnolias. We still had other programming, though, that was coming down the road. We had a summer youth production of Matilda that was going to open in July, as well as summer youth summer camps that were going to take place from the middle of June till the end of July. Well, we hoped we were going to be able to do these programming, but as time went along, it became apparent that things were not going to get better soon enough for us to feel confident that we could bring teaching artists as well as groups of youth together in the theater to do in-person programming. So around the latter part of April, beginning of May, we made the decision to cancel all in-person programming all the way through the end of August. We did that in consultation with the City of Los Altos, as well as in consultation with our board of directors. And instead, we decided we would move forward with our online programming. We had offered online programming a few months earlier, and we decided that we would expand that for the summer, invite teaching artists from around the country to propose programs for us and put that out to the community. So we will be starting online courses next week, and we'll be offering them all the way through the end of July. We'll be offering courses in acting for film, improvisation, puppetry, makeup. We'll be doing story-based programming for young children. While it is no replacement for the power of the in-person summer camp, we hope that these will be creative and worthwhile opportunity for youth as we try to navigate cautiously the remainder of the summer.
Now, some theaters have canceled their upcoming seasons, such as South Bay Musical Theater and Silicon Valley Shakespeare. Some theaters are choosing to wait and see. Can you explain how we're choosing to move forward?
Well, it's difficult. It's difficult to plan for what's going to happen next. I've been in conversations with a number of colleagues throughout the South Bay, and everybody is struggling with the questions about when are we going to be opening? How are we going to be opening? What types of work should we do? What type of audience size should we expect to have? I know my colleagues that were doing summer festivals such as Silicon Valley Shakes really had to make the decision back in May whether or not they were going to move forward, and they decided that they weren't going to be able to. And I know my colleagues at larger, predominantly musical theater producing organizations are really having a tough time. Musical singing is one of those activities that is a high risk activity for spreading the virus, and especially those organizations that are doing large scale musicals with large casts of 20, 30 or more in houses that seat hundreds of people, 2, 3, 400 people, really have a tough time about deciding when and how to open responsibly. We are in a slightly different position than those types of organizations. We are a small theater, a 100-seat theater, and we produce predominantly plays. So we have decided that we are going to put forward a plan that we will be able to open later than usual in late September, about 3 weeks later than we normally open, and that we will open with straight plays with small casts, and that we will move forward if we are able to have even a small house, say of 30 people in our house, that we have to social distance. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to make all of our shows general seating so that we can adapt to the social distancing requirements. Our first 3 shows are relatively small cast shows, so we will be able to provide a safe environment for the performers, both on the performance and as well as in the rehearsals, and we'll see what happens. Uh, on the off chance that we are not able to bring artists and audiences together in the early part of the fall, if the circumstances are such that it's just not safe, then we will pursue other ways of providing the programming to the community, whether or not that be uh, videotaping the performance in the theater without an audience and then being able to provide that digitally out to the community, or if we are able to adapt these shows to an entire virtual space, both the artists and the audiences are participating virtually. Those are the type of things that we're going to explore.
Okay, people have waited long enough. Can you please tell the folks at home what you and the board have chosen for our 2020-2021 season?
All right. Well, the 2021 season of Los Altos Stage. To start with, I have to say that this has been a evolving process as far as coming up with what we are going to attempt to do as a season next year. The board and I had agreed on a season back in February, and then the shelter-in-place orders were put in place, and the cancellation of our shows this year meant that we had to adapt those plans. And then, after conversations with colleagues and staff and other stakeholders in the community, the decision was made to make further modifications to our season planning in order to front load shows that have smaller cast and smaller production requirements so that we can have greater flexibility in the way that we approach those. So our plays and musical, one musical this year for 2021. We're going to open the season with a beautiful show called Tiny Beautiful Things. It's based on the novel that you may know by Cheryl Strayed and was adapted for the stage by Nina Vardalos. Tiny Beautiful Things follows the relationship between Sugar, who is an online advice columnist, and the many real life readers who pour out their hearts to her. The play has been described as a kind of theatrical hug for turbulent times, which we think is very appropriate given the challenges that we're all facing right now. Um, Tiny Beautiful Things is about reaching out when you're stuck, about recovering when you're broken, and about finding courage to ask questions that are the hardest to answer. Tiny Beautiful Things will be directed by Jeffrey Lowe, who has directed a number of really wonderful productions for us. He directed Grapes of Wrath, he directed The Crucible, Dead Man's Cell Phone, and Yellowface. Next, we're going to be presenting in November I and You, a beautiful kind of music box of a show by a local playwright named Lauren Gunderson, whose work we have never done before. Now, I and You is a haunting and often shocking play about youth, about poetry, about hope, about heart, and about the connections between us all. And we really think, given everything that we are struggling with right now, focusing on plays that are about how we are connected to one another is an important thing for us to be exploring. I and You is going to be directed by you. And audiences may remember the productions you've directed of Miracle on 34th Street, as well as Into the Woods. Now, after I and You, we're going to take a little break in December and January and come back in the last weekend of January, beginning of February, to present the South Bay production premiere of a play by Sarah Burgess called Dry Powder. Now, Dry Powder is a razor sharp, kind of whip smart comedy that skewers the world of high finance. Now, the story follows a private equity firm and the CEO of the private equity firm, Rick. Now, after throwing this lavish engagement party for himself on the private equity firm's dime, just after the firm itself had cut jobs at a national retailer, the firm and Rick are facing a PR disaster. Now, luckily, one of his managing directors has an ideal fix for this situation. A cheap buyout of an American manufacturer that will grow jobs and save the face of the organization. But another managing director, Jenny, uh, she favors a more cutthroat strategy that will maximize profits for the company. So the struggle ensues. Do we save face of the company? Do we do what will be right in the public perception? Or do we try to just generate as much money as possible for ourselves? Ultimately, this play is looking at what cost do you sacrifice your ideals? Now, Dry Powder, uh, opening in late January, is going to be directed by me. Audiences may remember the plays that I've directed recently being Admissions, as well as play Middletown, Maple and Vine. The last two productions of the season are going to be productions that were the last two productions of the season we had to cancel. So we're going to be moving Steel Magnolias to the slot opening in April, and that's going to be again directed by Jenny Hollingsworth. And then we're going to be closing, hopefully, with the production of Sunday in the Park with George that will open in June and be directed by Alex Perez. So that's our season for 2020, 2021.
How can people support LASC?
Really, the best way to support LASC right now is through subscription. We are going to be offering just one subscription package for next year, our flexible stage pass. That will be heavily discounted off the single ticket prices. The stage pass will be $150 for a 5-show stage pass and can be used for any show. The reason we're offering stage passes this year is that we really need to have the flexibility regarding audience size. What we're going to do is for subscribers, we will make the determination 4 weeks prior to the opening of the show that the show is going to move forward, and we will open up seating reservations for subscribers. Then after 2 weeks, 2 weeks prior to the show opening, we'll open up the remaining seats to single ticket buyers. We really need the support of our subscribers and our donors next year in order to move forward. Next season is going to be one of great uncertainty, and it's going to take on a lot of improvisation and a lot of flexibility for us to navigate. If people will come to us to support us through subscriptions, we'll be able to move forward with a little bit more security in trying to navigate these troubled and uncertain waters.
Thank you so much, Gary. This is definitely an exciting season. I'm excited to find our way forward by bringing live theater to our audiences.
Bye, Allie. Thank you for all the work that you've been doing. I look forward to working with you next season on the shows that we're going to be bringing to Los Altos Stage. Bye.